My name is Kathy Kramer. I am one of the co-owners of Pacific Northwest Aesthetics Academy, and today I have the distinct honor and privilege to interview my partner, Wendy Pickett, also a registered nurse, and I'm just really excited for you to hear her story, how she found her way into aesthetic medicine. So tell us a little bit about how you got from where you started to here.
Well, I was really, really lucky, and I had been working in the emergency department for 20 some years. Through the years, it just kind of started to wearing down on me. So I had some personal experiences and some professional experiences where I just really knew that it was time for me to move on. I wasn't enjoying my job. I loved my coworkers. I loved taking care of patients, but at the end of the day, I didn't feel fulfilled at all. And my story is really about, it's much more like this was meant to be. Everything just kind of flowed into place really quickly and really easily. And it's usually not this way at all. Because I had a doctor colleague who was thinking about buying a med spa in the area that the owners were moving out of state. And the first step was to find somebody to administer Botox and filler and do those sort of medical procedures. And just because we were friends, he asked me if I wanted to be his Botox nurse. And I was like, well, I don't really know what that means. I had it in my own face at that point, but I didn't know what that entailed at all. So I started researching. It was literally like a light bulb just went off, and this like ray of sunshine opened up and shined down on me. It was like, this is what you were meant to do. And so he ended up not buying the med spa, but by the time he'd made that decision, I'd already been for my training. I already had a couple different salons that I had communicated with about potentially doing the procedures in their spare waxing rooms that they had. So I already had the ball rolling. And I did not quit my day job. I was still in the emergency department, which is something we tell all of our students is don't quit your day job. Because I went on my own. I didn't know that I had such an entrepreneurial spirit until I just started. I didn't know what I didn't know. And right. You don't learn until you start asking the questions and you start doing it. And I did. I asked everybody I ran into who had their own business questions about how they did it, what were some little pearls of wisdom they could share with me, and they did. And so I just started working at several different little places here and there, traveling around with my toolbox full of syringes and medicine and establishing a clientele. And one of the people that I met very early on, right after I returned from my basic injectable training, was an esthetician. That's another thing that we always say is connect with an esthetician, because what we do as far as the injectable side of aesthetics and what estheticians do with skincare go hand in hand. So another very lucky thing that happened with me was I met my esthetician, and she also was in business with a hairstylist. And so the three of us joined together and formed a partnership, and we opened up a med spa that did hair, we did nails, we did lash extensions, I did the injectables, my esthetician did skincare, and we had that open within 9 months of me taking my aesthetic injectable training. It still wasn't easy. I was working my tail off. If I wasn't in the emergency department, I was at the med spa. I would see people on my lunch hour. I would see people after working a 12-hour shift. I would go to them. I was really hitting it hard, trying to establish that clientele to get myself to a point where I could quit in the ER. And I probably would have been able to do it after about 9 months or closer to a year. And it ended up taking me about a year and a half when I left the ER completely behind. And I've never regretted it for a single second. And I think really I never anticipated it being so professionally and personally fulfilling. And I didn't know that helping somebody to feel better about themselves was going to have such a big impact on my life or theirs. It's pretty amazing to see that transition. And then after I'd been in business for about 3-ish years, I met Kathy, And together, her and I decided to establish this training academy. And very early on, we decided what our priorities were. And what we're seeing a lot then and now is very unsafe procedures. So we have always been committed to treating very safe technique. But not only that, we try to educate our new healthcare providers who are going to aesthetics on danger zones, things that are dangerous, things that can jeopardize your patient's safety. So we have just evolved over the last several years and feel like our program has improved even more now than when we first started.
It has a life of its own.
It
our
does.
Program.
And we are continually, and the aesthetics industry in general is evolving so quickly, there's no way that we could just have a static workbook and it just stay the same. We're monthly adding new content because that's how quickly our industry is growing. And when we first started this training program, we knew we were going to do basic aesthetic injectables, but we kind of were like, well, we didn't really know what was going to happen beyond that. And it was demand, really, that we were like, well, what would we want? What would be the next step if we wanted it? And we had people asking for the advanced class. And then it just made sense to add a skincare class because I didn't know anything about skincare when I got into this field. So implementing some of those skincare theories or philosophies and treatments into your aesthetic injectable practice is really important.
Absolutely. And I think that brings up a really wonderful point. Wendy alluded to in the hair salon and then her practice on the coast of Oregon in a very small town, very, very successful. If you're looking for those entrepreneurial opportunities, it's really important to find a place where you have automatic referrals. And you know, I have a little side practice on the coast as well, and it's a hair salon that does lashes, hair, nails, all of that. Perhaps that if that's not your thing, you could get into a place that offers massage therapy or anything that involves wellness and feeling better about yourself. And I think it's important to kind of seek that out. You can start just an injectable business, but it's a really hard road, as Wendy said, and I will share that when she was in that little Medi-Spa, she says, looked it up in the state, I could do pedicures as long as it was therapeutic. And so I think we have to remember, we may do things I don't do a lot of things that skincare, lasers, things that an esthetician would do because my passion is injectables. But did I do them when I started? Absolutely. And
it just all goes into the tool chest that you have. So you want to be as marketable as you possibly can.
Absolutely.
So, and applying for a job and saying, I haven't had any training at all, versus somebody who goes and applies for the same job and says, oh, I took a basic injectable training. They're definitely going to be considered before the person who hasn't had any training at all, and then just moving up from there. The next step, yes, I have had laser training, I've had skincare training, I've had basic injectable training. This is my first job, but I'm motivated and I'm passionate and I'm ready to learn more. So getting as many things in your tool chest as you can is huge.
Yes, indeed. So we have pretty big tool chests here. Between the two of us, we've got luggage. Mine has wheels. But I think, again, being marketable and remembering that you are still a nurse. You're still a healthcare provider. And I know Wendy shared a story a while back. I'd love for you to share that about a client who came in not looking well, and with no injectables at all. Wendy helped her by referring her to a naturopath.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this happens frequently. I was having a bit of trouble remembering exactly what patient Kathy was talking about because
I knew you'd get there.
It happens more so than not. And she sat in my chair and I said, you look great. Like, it had been several months since I'd seen her, and I said, you look amazing. Like, what's going on? And she goes, well, it's thanks to you. And I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, well, you're the one who told me to go to see, such and such nurse practitioner. I had no idea my hormones were so out of whack, and you referred me to her because we had been talking about it sounded to me like hormone related issues that she was having, and weight gain despite not being on a diet and exercising, and she still was gaining weight, and issues with her hair and her skin. And it was pretty simple for me, just because of the experiences I've had over the years, to say, you need to go see a naturopath. And she did. And she's like, I'm glad that you think I look better, but the biggest thing is that I feel better. And that was it for me. Like, I was just like, you just made my whole year. Like, that one patient, it was pretty incredible.
Because overall, we have to approach our clients holistically. I think that's very, very important. And remember that we are healthcare providers. We're not just doing foo-foo pretty medicine. There's a lot that we have to offer. And if it's outside of our scope, it certainly is nice to have a network of colleagues that we can refer our patients to. Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we would love to hear any comments you have about today's video.